So this is cool. I have like a little xylophone here, and it's a good way to understand the nature of insight, or what's going on when you learn like new things. And it's when every single idea that you have, that you can think of, every concept is basically a note. Like every note, or every, at a basic level, the simplest thoughts are like notes. And then those sound correct in a particular sequence, right? Like here, my name is Kurt. So it's like this sequence, and it makes sense when the correct concepts are next to each other, right? So this thing is you can't really sound wrong with this, because of the type of scale that it is. All the notes sound good together, kind of no matter what. There's other scales to where you have to specifically play different notes together, otherwise it can sound wrong. Like no matter what combination I play, it sounds pretty good. So what people recognize as music, or what you recognize as higher ordered thought, like if you're getting into philosophy, if you're getting into metaphysics, like what you're learning to do is to vary pattern at larger and larger scales. So like somebody who's not, I don't know, into philosophy or somebody, they can think like this. And it's kind of like you just kind of go back and forth between the notes, and that's all you're thinking of, to where it's like if you get higher ordered patterns, it's even just something like, so it's like there's like a pattern of like doing this. So that was like 3 or 4 meta notes, to where the whole pattern repeats. So if you get with somebody like Beethoven or these composers, you get meta patterns that last for however long. And so people can become very scientific at this and write it down and think it out, or you can just like, people like finding the patterns at jam spaces. And so you'll find if you sit down and just jam on particular days, like you'll have those, there's like particular flavors, there's particular things in the air. And when you notice that like just stuff like that is influencing your perceptions, how you think, and you see other people around you kind of coming up with the same ideas, coming up with the same jams, you kind of see that like that artistic flow of being able to do meta patterns also opens you up to seeing what's naturally there and then copying that, and you can start interacting with the fields and the stuff around you like chords. And so that's when musicians can like play a crowd. It's like there's a slight vibe coming off of the crowd, and that's going to change how you play. And then that's also what's going on with like if you see people doing satsangs or spiritual teachings and stuff like that, it's not what they know, it's not really what they say or even who they are. It's a type of music to where they're just listening to you so much that what needs to be said comes out. Like it just that's the art of that, or that's what that person is doing, or like that's what a good psychologist is doing. And it's you can understand what's going on mentally, like why do these people feel this way? And it's the same reason that people like particular teachers, or they like particular psychologies, fads, and sciences at any particular time, is the same reason that people like what's being played at a rock concert. It's like the ideas and the stuff fit together with past ideas, with things that they're thinking. So if somebody comes up with an idea now that has this like strong resonance with like your past, or like the notes that came before, if somebody plays something that makes it all like make sense, then people gravitate towards that for the same reason that they gravitate towards a band that's playing. Right? People gravitate towards ideologies that make good chords with their past, the same reason that people go and swamp bands, and bands kind of like sell out. Intellectually, like when you really get behind an ideology or whatever, it's not the physics or the mechanics of how everything is operating that draws anyone to any particular idea set. It is what most people think of as true is when it sounds good, when it feels good at the mental level. So you have all this mental activity, and you could scientifically reduce it to brain waves, right? So that brain wave is just like this. Like you have a brain wave that's a note, you have a brain wave that's a frequency, and so other wave patterns are going to sound good like a chord, or it'll sound good like it repeats you perfectly, and so it makes you part of a sequence, right? So sometimes an idea will match your life or match your experience so perfectly that you like become part of a sequence, you become part of an event, like in a song. Like mentally, like that's what's going on in the brain with your ideas, like when you jive with something. And so when you see people rallying around intellectuals or political candidates and stuff like that, it's like, just notice in yourself, like that. It's not even like this is wrong. It's just you want to know musical theory. Like it's not even bad to rally around these particular teachers that like make sense of your life, make music of your life, because that's your sense of mental and intellectual beauty going off. Like everyone has a sense of like, is this intellectually beautiful or not? And that sense is what leads people to like, they fall out of love with their culture, they fall out of love with their religion. And it's not because it's like true or false, like that's something to be argued over. But the reason that there was like this, I don't want to be here anymore, it's just, there was like a sequence that was no longer being copied. Like, so like what was going on in your head just couldn't, there weren't enough like notes for the pattern to continue on. And there's a certain addiction to complexity. Like your mental noise is what you grew up with, and so you love it the same way that you love your favorite music. And so like whatever that mental complexity is, it might be really depressing, or it could be awesome and exciting. Like there is a certain addiction to wanting it to get more and more and more and more and more and more. But that sense of beauty is like, it is correct. You can tell if like, oh, does that building look good? Does that person check out? Like once you realize mentally that you have this sense or this taste of beauty, and you see that you're responding to that, and so is the other person, to be honest, that you can engage with people in a thinking way that is no longer based off of like, is this code correct? Like, oh, here's my correct song. And you can actually start to like think and jive, and people love it, right? That's what comedians are doing when you're playing a crowd. Politicians, everything. So it's like, it's just realize that like there's just, all there is just a sense of beauty going on. And it's not that like, oh, that note's out, whatever. It's like, if you expand your mental intellectual palette like just a little bit, you can get enough notes to fit in with just about everyone, or at least play like a non-offensive song. And it's like, that's the area where people like really actually live.